Have you ever had one of those really tricky mornings with your kiddos? A morning where the drop off is pretty much a complete disaster. You've got that angry mama tone and vibe on lockdown. You're pressured and you're tense. Maybe you're raising your voice, nagging your kids to get going, resulting to bribery or coercion just to get your kid into the dang car already. Maybe needing to physically buckle your kid into their seatbelt when they're flailing and protesting. Maybe there's lots of tears or angry words coming at you. And the absolute worst, having to say goodbye at daycare or school drop off with the incident and the relationship between the two of you tense and unresolved for the time being. Mamas, you know what I'm talking about. It's the dreaded rough drop off. Today, I want to talk about the best way to reset after one of these difficult mornings so you can show up to work like a pro and feel less plagued by guilt at pickup later in the day. Hi there, and welcome to Luminary Life Kits Coffee Chats with Kara. My name is Kara Mayola. I'm a licensed professional counselor and working mom of a young kiddo. And I help working moms reconnect with and resource them started season of life with young kids. So today we're here and you're listening because you want to know the best way to reset after a rough drop off. And why do we need this reset as working moms? Well, first of all, we have to be able to show up to our work like a pro. It just seems like inevitable that the mornings when we have like a productivity list stacked or we have client meetings or a really important presentation, those are the meetings when the morning routine doesn't go as planned and we are needing to pressure ourselves or our kids to get in the car and get going so we can make those meetings. And inevitably, it's usually when the rough drop off occurs. Even if we don't have really kind of time sensitive or important work to jump right into, it really decreases our sense of fulfillment in the day. We don't have a way to reset and recover after those big kind of mental and emotional storms. And so our work suffers, but our sense of fulfillment and quality of life suffers when we don't have a good reset. What's so important to me about this topic is that often we feel a pretty disproportionate sense of guilt or frustration or fear that since we're not able to right away kind of repair and reconcile with our kiddo, we have to wait a full 6 to 10 hours, depending on our workday before we get him again. That can take a toll on our hearts as well. So it's so important to me that we have a way to reset and reconnect with ourselves first so that we can practice a little bit of soothing and safety signaling for ourselves so that we can show up to the pickup with a solid repair game plan in mind so that we can recover completely and meaningfully with our kiddo at the end of the day. So, first of all, this kind of rough drop off day happens to all of us. So, despite our best intentions, we all have these tricky and pressured mornings where we're not our best selves as we usher our kids out the door. Maybe we kind of started a little sleep deprived and on edge, or maybe a little anxious, anticipating the volume of the day in front of us. Or maybe it was just a fine morning and everything was going smoothly, but then 3 minutes till wheels have to be turning in order for everyone to make it to daycare or school or to work on time. Suddenly there's a huge kid protest. The toy can't be found. There's an objection to the lunch. I mean, you name it, something is happening, and now we're starting to be late and delayed. So, when these mornings inevitably happen, it is so hard to jump right into work afterwards when we're feeling the ick. So, I don't know about you, but these are typical feelings that I feel or that I have spoken with other mamas that they feel after one of those really difficult drop off mornings with their kids. So, We're usually feeling annoyed, frustrated, regretful, anxious, maybe ashamed, guilty, shut down, overwhelmed. And I mean, you fill in the blank. Think about it for yourself, friend. How do you feel after those really difficult mornings where even if even if it was more your kid having a hard time, maybe you didn't respond as well as you wanted to, or maybe it just took an extreme amount of energy and effort to stay calm and grounded while dealing with the difficulty. Take a moment to check in. How do you feel after those moments? After those real drop off doozy moments? So, of course, you and I and all working mamas need a practical because it has to be short. It's got to fit into the flow of the day, and it's got to be accessible and easy to implement. And it's got to be pretty much right there, able to do wherever you are. So it's got to be practical. And we have to have a powerful, meaning it's potent, it really works, way to reset after an experience like that. And if we don't do that, we're typically less productive, we're more distracted, we're less adaptable, we're rigid. Usually we bring that kind of angst into our work. So we're more driven, more rigid, more pressured, or maybe the opposite. We start to get a little less focused, more distracted, like we are staring at a blank screen for too long. We have this long list of to-dos, but we just can't get ourselves to get going. Or we're really good at turning on that light switch off to on, and we're in that kind of people pleasing and performance mode. But then later, as the day goes on, our sense of agitation, exhaustion, and a lack of fulfillment really starts to settle in. Once we have that practical and powerful reset, we're able to show up to work in a way that we feel deeply proud of and in a way that helps us reconnect to a different part of our brains, the non momming part of our brains and selves. And then we're also less likely to feel guilt at pickup because we've done a little bit of our own soothing work. So we don't need the reconnect with our kid to go a specific way in order to feel better about ourselves. We've done this practice that I'm about to teach you so that we already feel reconnected and resourced. And then any guilt we would have felt, we're able on our way to pick up our kid to transform that guilt into agency, to be able to pay attention to the parts of that morning that didn't go the way that we wanted to be able to make a generous and meaningful repair for our behavior with our kiddos, and then brainstorm with them what we could do the next day to make drop off go a little bit better. Okay, are you ready for the way to do this? I've broken it up into 3 steps for us all. So, step one, you need to find a quiet spot for a quick reset. So, this could be in your car, in the parking lot at work, or in your car midway if you just need to drive to like a pretty spot and park at a park and take a minute for yourself. It could be in your office or in a conference room before you get to your computer. It could be in the cozy corner of your home if you work from home. And I want you to hang with me here for a moment. That is step one. Like you actually have to pause and find and search out a quiet spot to do this reset. It is so tempting just to like jump right into work, but please, mama, consider doing something different. Take a few minutes to yourself first. All right, step two. You need to learn how to signal safety to your mind body connection. So, you can do this through a few different nervous system regulating practices. So, why is this step two? One of the things I'm most grateful for is that in my professional life as a mental health provider, I underwent a training in polyvagal theory as a therapist for clinical use about a year after my son was born. And that training really blew my mind in terms of how our bodies and the distress or stress that our bodies feel as we're human beings moving through the world, relating and experiencing life. Our physical bodies have a profound impact on the way that our brains work. So, your body is going to influence, listen to this, the types of thoughts that you have, the perceptions that you have of yourself or of others or of the situation. Your body influences the way that you're able to move or not move skillfully through emotions. And it also influences your habits or the patterns of behavior that you're likely to take after a stressful or demanding experience. So I'm so grateful to the knowledge I have as a mental health provider about how we can signal safety to our bodies or our nervous systems, which are the portal to the mind body connection, so that we can bring our best brain online as working mamas. So, step two, you need to learn how to signal safety to the mind body connection. So, I think the most powerful and practical ways to do this as working moms with young kids, especially in the middle of your workday, and especially when time is at a premium, is through a few different practices. So, one is deliberate breathing, two is looking for glimmers, three is a practice called sensory grounding, and four is a non sleep deep rest guided practice. So these are my four favorite ways to initiate that profound reset. These are four strategies that help your nervous system to recover quickly from that difficult and demanding time with your kiddo so that you can come back to a place where you feel calm and connected and grounded and like you've got your best self back in the driver's seat. Now, if you're at this point and you're still hanging in there listening with me, you're maybe wondering what these things are, or you might have an idea, but you want to know what I think about these things. So, friend, you're in the right place. I'm going to talk about them briefly today, but go back into the Luminary Life Kits blog. I have blog posts on pretty much all of these practices, and I'll keep putting free information and free guides and free resources out there for you. But it's also the reason why I created the Calm Kit online course. So in the Calm Kit online course, I teach you all about your nervous system, how to map your own nervous system, and how to use these powerful tools to reset and recover and reconnect with yourself so you can move forward with your day more fulfilled and better able to navigate the full onness of this season of life. And in the Calm Kit course, it also has some guided audio tools that are linked to a private podcast feed. So you can just pull me up and push play on a 3 to 10 minute, depending on how much time you have, guided nervous system regulation practice. So they're there for you if you'd like them. Let's talk about them a little bit, just briefly right now. So deliberate breathing. There's something called the vagus nerve that runs up and down and in front of your spine. And it is kind of the link between your nervous system and the way that your mind works. So, in polyvagal theory, we learn how to do things that help to regulate and influence the vagus nerve so that we can move from a dysregulated and discombobulated nervous system state back up to a resourced and regulated state. So, breathing is one of the most powerful, quickest, and effective ways to self soothe or self regulate. So go ahead and take a look at the Luminary Life Kits blog posts and find some resetting breath or grounding breath or other types of deliberate breathing practices that I love to teach on this channel. Looking for glimmers. Option number two, that is the practice of looking all around your environment, wherever you're at, and choosing to ignore the things that don't appeal to you, that are agitating or are frustrating to you. Like if I were to look around the part of my screen that you don't see, I see a ton of coats just kind of jumbled in the front entryway. I see a couple full of dirty dishes and some coffee grounds spilled on the counter. I'm ignoring all of those things. And instead, I'm looking for glimmers. So, glimmers are things that signal safety to the nervous system, that light you up, that represent beauty or peace or comfort or connection or well being. So, you're going to look all around your environment. You can do this inside or outside. You can do this from your car, looking out your window. You can do this from any environment that you're in. You look around and you engage in maybe your sense of sight, or maybe even your sense of smell, or your sense of taste, or your sense of touch. And you look for, I don't know, 3 to 6 things in your environment that signal safety to you. And you use them as like, you kind of imagine that you're latching on to these things in your environment, and they're like an anchor dropping deep to the bottom of the ocean of resource within you and taking hold, rooting and calming and anchoring you. So, for to look around my environment right now, I can see some cheerful plants over here in the corner. I can see some artwork from travels that I've taken, and I can take a moment to savor those memories. I can look at those coffee grounds, but I can look behind it and see my favorite coffee making machine and all the comfort and coziness that it brings me. I can take a moment to take a sip of my coffee, especially made for coffee chats with Kara. I can smell it and savor it. And then maybe I could even touch my cozy sweater that I'm wearing and just take a few moments to use my senses to anchor in some of the things that help me to be in touch with those glimmers or those special things in life. Sensory grounding is the third tool, and I gave you a little bit of a taste of it with using sensory grounding as a way to source glimmers in your environment. But my favorite way after a really big doozy, before I have to go in and be on, is I actually like to take myself on a walk. So if you have to walk around a building or around a room, absolutely you can. But I love to hop outside and walk around outside. It's my favorite way to sensory ground. And I do it for as many minutes I have, from 3 to 5 minutes, but usually I have no more than 5 minutes. So I set my timer for 60 seconds and I take myself out on a walk in any direction. And I use the first 60 seconds to look all around me and engage in my sense of sight, just looking around and looking for things that appeal to me, that are positive, that fill me up, that help me to tap into the beauty and the joy that is in the world, right alongside all the trickiness and the mess. So, first minute for your sense of sight, second minute for smell, third minute for sound, fourth minute um, for touch. So I feel the cold air on my face or the warm sun on my face, or I even reach out if I have some natural, elements around me, like I reach for the pine needles, or I maybe run my hand on a rough brick. I just bring myself deeply into the present moment using my senses. If you've got a fifth minute, if you have your cup of coffee with you in your to-go mug, you can take that fifth minute for your sense of taste. But I often don't have that with me, so I use that fifth minute to just try to be as fully engaged in all of my senses as I can be for one full minute. Again, if you only have 2 minutes, do it for 2 minutes. That's fine. So step 3. So after you've done step 1, which is find a quiet spot for a quick reset, and step 2, which is chosen a practice to signal safety to the mind-body connection, you're going to do step 3, which is to reconnect in a soothing and supportive way with yourself. So this is the way that I do that. And I'm going to offer it to you and maybe try it on your own. And if you want to shape it up or edit that first draft to make more sense for you, of course, go ahead and do so. So I recommend that you place a hand over your heart. And really, I recommend doing it, not just in your mind, but physically placing your hand in a tender and supportive and soothing way onto your body. We do so much nurturing and caregiving for the littles. It's so important to practice pointing a little bit of that nurturing and caregiving back our way. So after placing a hand on my heart, I'll say to myself, that was a tricky drop off. It's okay to feel a little wobbly after that. I am a loving mom and I can make a good repair with my kiddo later today. And I'll think through how to do that on my way to pickup. So maybe go ahead and place your hand over your heart right now and repeat either out loud or silently in your head after me those same words. That was a tricky drop off. It's okay to feel wobbly after that. I'm a loving mom and I can make a good repair with my kiddo later today. I'll think through how to do that on my way to pickup. If you did that little practice with me, what did you notice? What parts of that worked well for you and felt soothing? And what parts of it would you maybe want to re listen, write it down, and then edit it out so that it signals that right soothing and safety for you? Let me tell you why I chose those words for myself. So, the first, that's a tricky drop off. We need to name and validate what was difficult. It's a part of what starts to signal safety to the nervous system is to move toward ourselves in a relational and connected way. Two, it's okay to feel wobbly after that. I chose the words wobbly for this, but you could choose any feelings that you actually feel. But so important to name our emotions and make a little bit of space for them. This is a generous act of self compassion. And in the clinical research, it's a powerful way to start to regulate your nervous system. Three, I'm a loving mom and I can make a good repair with my kiddo later today. It's so important to normalize our challenges and to remind ourselves that our bad moments aren't the only moments. We also have some really good moments in there too. We can have imperfect mornings and be deeply loving and caring mothers. So it's good to remind ourselves of our goodness inside and then also to remind ourselves of the agency we have, that it's okay to make mistakes and that repairs are more important than being able to do it perfectly. I'm so grateful to Tina Payne Bryson and Becky Kennedy, both amazing psychologists who are really influential parenting resources for me. And they remind me that getting it wrong is just part of it, but getting it right looks like not getting it right the first time or all the time, but being able to attend to the relationship with your kid over a period of time and getting really good at making repairs. And then the last part, I'll think through how to do that on my way to pick up later in the day is I need to tell my mind when I'm going to solve that problem. If I don't give my mind the job of kind of compartmentalizing that and putting it to later in the day, it's going to be kind of like kicking in and asking for me to pay attention to it while I'm working with a client or while I'm trying to prepare a presentation or while I'm trying to do a batch of writing or productivity or something like that. And so I need to kind of let my mind know that there's going to be a solve for this and that I have a dedicated period of time to be able to solve it. Now you could say, I'll figure that out on my lunch break, or I'll take my unblocked hour to go on a walk and think about it. Or on my way home, I'll leave a little early and I'll call a friend, or I'll listen to that parenting podcast about how to make repairs, or whatever it is. You just make a plan for when you're going to resource yourself further to understand how you're going to make that repair with your kiddo. But you're telling your brain when you're going to do it so it doesn't have to bug you throughout the rest of the day and kind of be like a hole in the bucket, draining your attention and your resources. This way, when you go through these 3 steps, you don't feel guilt at pickup because you've already regulated your nervous system. You've already begun to work through some of the emotions that you had at the beginning of the morning. You didn't just shove them in a corner to deal with at a later time. And then you also made a plan to make a repair with your kid, which is what's most important. So, from a therapist and working mom's toolkit, If you want to bring the best creativity, presence, and brain power to work, and in order to make a deeply meaningful repair, one that doesn't just like right the wrong, but that like continues to help you build a close and connected relationship with your kiddo, you have to notice and attend to the impact that difficult drop-offs have on your nervous system. So if you want to learn more and get guided practice tools, have access to that private podcast library, check out the Calm Kit. And I have a free non-sleep deep rest guided practice that I absolutely live by in my own day-to-day life. And it's free, and I'll be sure to link it in the notes below. Thank you so much for taking the time to have a morning cup of coffee with me or to listen on your way to work. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you here again soon.